This video series covers the disease of alcoholism as it was originally given to us as a theory in the 1930s. The theory of the disease of alcoholism covers two aspects: the disease of my body and the disease of my mind. There's two videos previously to this where we talk about the issues in the body. We describe it as an allergy to drugs and alcohol, and the name of the reaction that comes from that allergy is known as the POC, or the phenomenon of craving. To talk more about that, the phenomenon of craving is completely incurable and untreatable except with handcuffs. If by some miracle we are able to stop the alcoholic or addict from using drugs, in most cases it comes from handcuffs, or it comes from a situation which makes it so difficult for him to continue on that he will stop. Such as, I've run out of money, I have no transportation, people are out to get me, my family has left me, and my only option is either to go with this police officer who's forcibly taking me away, or check into treatment, or stay in the hospital that I got brought to and detox. It's very rare for the alcoholic or the addict to get out of the phenomenon of craving. It is very rare. If you have experience going to treatment or jail and you meet everyone around, oh yeah, I'm an addict, man, and I stopped and I stopped and I stopped. You meet people, all of them have stopped. And you may be fooled into thinking that all addicts stop using, and they don't. Most of them continue to use. Most addicts you will never meet. Most addicts will die or go to prison. The ones who stop or end up in treatment or end up with even a week of sobriety, that is a miracle. Like I always say, it's a miracle when we don't use. It just is. So, if by some miracle the drug addict stops using or is forced to stop using, that is awesome. And we look at it the same way that we look at an allergy. If a guy with a peanut allergy doesn't want to experience the horrible shock and hives and fever that come with ingesting peanuts, all he's got to do is not eat peanuts. The same thing goes with drugs and alcohol and the alcoholic. If you don't want to live in the phenomenon of craving and have your life become a pressure cooker of pain and misery, then just don't do it. Total abstinence. Never do it again. Stay sober the rest of your life. It sounds so simple when you put it that way. However, you and I both know that an addict and an alcoholic will always go back to drugs and alcohol. He will always put it back in his body, thereby starting the terrible cycle in motion again. You can't even classify a person as an alcoholic. You can't even diagnose yourself as an addict until you have continually relapsed over and over again. Only then do people start to come to the realization what they are truly suffering from. So, if I'm finally sober and the disease, the allergy in my body can tear me apart, all I have to do is never do it again. But I do. I relapse time and time again, which must mean that the center of alcoholism, the center of drug addiction, lies in my mind. The center of my disease lies in my sobriety. This is hard to accept, that a person with drug and alcohol addiction is suffering from a sober disease, right? It's obvious and easy to say, yeah, well, once I start drinking, I can't stop. Or once I start using, all bets are off and I may die or go permanently insane or go to prison or this and that. That's pretty obvious stuff. What's not so obvious, what's more subtle, is the idea that you're going to do it again. You're going to do this again. I'll never forget the first treatment center that I went to. I was young enough that I wasn't even legally allowed to drink, and I was already in treatment suffering from alcoholism. Then, of course, I didn't know it. Me being in treatment was not enough of a sign to me to explain that maybe I'm an alcoholic or maybe I'm a drug addict. Like, being in treatment, even that was not enough. And I'll never forget this man sitting across a desk from me, and we had talked, he had gotten an accurate understanding of my life. He had noticed all of the signs just right down the middle. Yep, this guy has the ism. And he told me, you're going to do this again. When you go back to Florida, when you leave here, you will inevitably use again. And I remember how that made me feel. One, that someone would have the balls to tell me, a man who's only known me for a few hours, that I would do it again. How dare you say that to me? I was angry. I laughed it off. I minimized it. I tried to escape the diagnosis. But I think part of me knew that it was true, and it ended up being completely true. A true alcoholic or a true drug addict, again, are the same disease, just different substances. All of them are basically unlimited relapse machines. And there is not a force on God's green earth that will prevent the relapse from happening when it's time for the relapse to happen. It just does. This is known as the mental disease of alcoholism. Now, there are some factors leading in. There's some names, there's some words, and we're going to go over all that. So when you take an alcoholic or drug addict and you put them in sobriety, right? They have gone through their detox. They have made it through the phenomenon of craving. At some point in the first week or the first month or the first 90 days, they fade out of the phenomenon of craving that rests on them. They fade away from it, and they are now no longer suffering from the allergic reaction. They're no longer in it. And so they immediately get put into the sober disease of alcoholism, which is known as R.I.D, restlessness, irritability, and discontentedness. Restless, irritable, and discontent syndrome. This is a sober mental condition or a spiritual condition. You may interchange what class you want it to be under, however it suits you. This is a mental condition that is completely unique to drug addicts and alcoholics. It's also a common part of the human condition. There's a void in each one of us that is unfillable, that we search our entire lives to satisfy. The money, the relationships, my prestige, my pride, my sense of respect from other people and self-respect, the things I buy, the things I wear, my tattoos, the way I let my hair grow, the things I eat, the things I do during the day, the way that I speak. All of these things are centered around this human condition where I am unfulfilled. I am restless, no matter how tired I may be, no matter how comfortable my bed is, no matter how many blankets I have, no matter how well my clothes fit. I feel restless. And in the drug addict and alcoholic, even though they are no longer withdrawing or no longer detoxing, you will see drug addicts and alcoholics unable to achieve bodily satisfaction. They will itch, they will tap, they will move around suddenly, they will rock back and forth, they'll move their muscles around in strange ways because they cannot find a sense of relaxation and rest subconsciously. They are restless. The next letter in the acronym of R.I.D, R-I-D, is irritability. There is a part of the human condition where a person will be quick to anger or may burn with a sense of frustration for no good reason at all. There's nothing necessarily making them angry or making them feel frustrated. They may be able to laugh in conversations and experience happiness and joy, but they will never experience peace. At the bottom of their emotional condition, at the bottom of their mental condition, is a slow burn of irritability, where the alcoholic will be quick to anger, excited when things don't go his way so that he may latch on to them and bite down with his emotional teeth. This is called irritability. And if you know alcoholics and addicts, you will experience people being irritable for no good reason at all. The last letter in the acronym of R.I.D is discontent, and this is, to me, by far the most insufferable part of being a sober alcoholic. Discontentedness. To be content is a powerful state. It's one of the greatest states a human being can find themselves in. It's a state of peace where, regardless of what is happening around me, in this world, in my life, in my relationships, in my job, and in my wallet, I have peace. I have a peace that surpasses understanding, because regardless of what I know or don't know to be true in life, I have peace. A sober alcoholic, a sober drug addict, has no such thing. He is discontent. He has a profound, deep sense of dissatisfaction and unhappiness and depression and pain and sadness. Even though he may laugh, even though he may have relationships, even though on paper all of the things to fulfill him are there, if he's being honest with you, he is unhappy. The name of this condition is known as restless, irritable, and discontent syndrome, and it is the baseline. It is the modus operandi. It is how alcoholics and addicts feel. It's how they exist without drugs and alcohol. Drugs and alcohol are the solution for drug addicts and alcoholics. It's how they experience life. It's how they engage with life. So when you take that away from them, they get worse. It's hard to imagine that an alcoholic will become more miserable in his early sobriety. It seems backwards and it doesn't make any sense. But if I'm being honest, the times when I got sober and went to work and re-engaged in my relationships and started living life again, I was restless, I was irritable, I was discontent. I could not find happiness. I could not find peace. And when you live your life in a slow burning of restlessness, irritability, and discontentedness, at some point, you will opt out. You will start to do things that fulfill the restless, irritable, and discontent. So you see addicts and alcoholics buy things. Right? You see us going on large spending sprees. We become collectors. We buy a bunch of watches. We get a bunch of tattoos really fast. We buy a bunch of sneakers. We change our hair. We buy a bunch of clothes. We get a new car. We work on the car a lot. We spend money that we don't have on things because we want to just fulfill something and make something happen. We will become absolute womanizers or manonizers. We will start swiping on every dating app that we can download. The Christian ones, even though we're not Christians. The hookup ones, even though we're not really the one night stand type. We will start to swipe right or swipe left, with whichever direction it is, on all sorts of people. We will date. We will look for the sexual fulfillment. We will engage in stupid relationships that are not good for them and not good for us because we want to experience relief from restless, irritable, and discontent. We will become very, very good in the gym. We will lift weights. We will tear muscles. We will gain weight. We will lose weight. We will watch hours and hours and hours of YouTube videos. We will stay up all night learning about one topic at a time, obsessively, because we want to fulfill restless, irritable, and discontent. Right? This state produces a lot of side behaviors. It produces a lot of strange things on the side, reinventing yourself. You will have false religious drug addicts. You will have people that one week they were living the dirtiest, most insane lifestyle, and then the next week, all of a sudden, they become preachers, and they want to talk about religion and spirituality for hours and hours to anyone who will listen and to people who don't want to listen. They will reinvent an archetype for themselves that they don't necessarily believe to be true. This is where you get fake it till you make it. in recovery circles. You will have people entirely reinvent who they are and assume these false personalities that when you meet them, they appear to be disingenuous because they are. But God bless these people. They are trying to do what they can do with what they have, which is, how do I escape restless, irritable, and discontent? This is the condition that dominates sober alcoholics and sober drug addicts. And so what happens over the long term, over the years, is you will have relapse, allergy, phenomenon of craving. And you will cycle this phenomenon of craving for months and years and destroy your life. And then you end up in jail. And then you end up in treatment. And now you are restless, irritable, and discontent, and trying your best to manage and trying your best to make it not so. And then eventually, what works really well for restless, irritable, and discontent? When the shoes don't work, the money doesn't work, the women don't work, the working out doesn't work. I know what will solve this. I know what will take away this feeling. It's drugs and alcohol. And then I will come up with some insane reason, excuse, method for me to put it in my body. Or I won't come up with anything and I'll do it despite myself. I can't believe I just did that. What am I doing? Why did I do this? Eventually, this insane idea that I can do it this time dominates me, and I do it. Boom. And then I'm back into the phenomenon of craving. I have set off that allergy, and I am doing this again, only to hopefully go to the hospital, go to jail, get in trouble. Now I'm sober. Now I'm back in restless, irritable, and discontent. And I live life for a while, miserable, piss some people off, get a job, spend some money, get miserable, relapse, back in the phenomenon of craving. And over the long term, we go back and forth. It's like a figure eight of misery, a figure eight of suffering.